He's one of the most unlikely senators in the chamber's history. Democrat John Fetterman of Pennsylvania does not toe the party line. He crosses it, usually in sneakers and his signature hoodie and shorts. Throughout the nearly 7-week shutdown, he has consistently voted with Republicans to reopen the government until 7 Democrats joined him, actually 6 Democrats and 1 independent, to actually do that, to reopen the government. That vote happened earlier this week. Senator Fetterman joins me now from his hometown of Braddock, Pennsylvania, where he was once mayor. He's the author of a new book called Unfettered, which is incredibly raw on a whole bunch of levels, including about the struggle that you have, Senator, with depression. I'm going to get to that in one moment, but I do want to start with the big news of the day, the reaction to these newly released documents that show Jeffrey Epstein mentioned to Donald Trump multiple times in private emails, like this one from Epstein to Maxwell on April 2nd, 2011. And I'll read it to you. "I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump." Then there was a part that was redacted. "Spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." What do you make of that?
Yes. I have followed it, of course, absolutely, and now, it's absolutely troubling, to see that, and I think we probably need more. And my understanding is that now that the House is back, now they have enough to activate that discharge petition. I think that's the technical term, and then I think everything should come out. I think enough people agree that it should just come out and just see where this goes and follow it where the evidence, has at this point. Absolutely.
So if it does pass the House, it will be a question of whether the Senate Majority Leader John Thune will bring it for a vote in the Senate. I assume that means that you'll push him to do that?
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, I think, everybody agrees at this point. Let's just release everything, and then we can find and see exactly what it is right now.
Senator, let's talk about your memoir. It's incredibly, as I said, it's incredibly raw. You talk in great detail about your struggle with the disease that is depression, and I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. But I do want to ask about the way that you approach the Senate, and you write about that in your book. You said, quote, "I've drunk deeply of the venom of both the left and the right. As a connoisseur, I can confirm that the most poisonous, the bitterest, is from the far left." That is pretty remarkable to hear you say that as an elected Democrat. Why?
No. It's just been my personal experience on this thing. And when I asked my digital team, I said, we're on all the platforms, really what's kind of the harshest, what's kind of the most personal? And the answer was immediate. He said, "Oh, blue sky, it's blue sky." And the difference is, the right would say really rough things and names, some names I won't repeat on TV, but the on the left, it was like they want me to die, or that we're cheering for your next stroke, or that's terrible that depression won. Why couldn't it depression won? And I hope your kids find you. They even have like the graphic, a GIF where they have like a stroke, in your head,
Oh my gosh.
cheering at that. Yeah, and they said that. I remember one. They claimed, "Oh, the doctor let us down, and why did they have to save his life?" Just really like. I just can't imagine. People are wishing, I wish he dies, or I want him to die, literally cheering for a stroke. And I don't know what the kind of a place where that comes from. That's much different than just calling me a name. That's really been consistent, in that community online. And
let's talk about.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do want to talk about your story. And you go back to, you mentioned your stroke. You did survive a near-death stroke during your 22 campaign. You ended up still flipping that seat. Obviously, you're there. Instead of being happy about that, about surviving the stroke, about winning your election, you ended up in the deepest depths of emotional darkness. And here's what you wrote about that period. Quote, I went through the unimaginable pain that comes from a disease of the mind, irrationally masquerading as rationality, the brittle bones and visible scars of a wasted life, suicidal, paranoid, not eating, not sleeping, not speaking, not functioning, resigned, ashamed, despairing. And you even wrote that you drove to a bridge and thought about ending your life.
Yeah, that's true. I would go days not eating or drinking, and I was really lost. And that's the way I described it. It's where it starts to feel there's like it's rational, and there's some kind of a logic to that. To start to believe that it's better if you take themselves out. And when you, to the point where you start to, you're sizing up a bridge. I mean, quite literally, you're sizing up a bridge. And I even made the commitment, like, well, my family won't find me in the house. I can't do that. So just find a way to do this somewhere else. And there are two very high bridges close where I live, and I actually evaluated both in terms for that. That's the danger, and that's the tragic truth of depression. And if it takes a hold of you, you start to have these kinds of awful conversations. And that's why I really wanted to do this book, to just talk about it, saying I know millions of Americans suffer from depression, and now there's also an epidemic of suicide in our nation, and now 18 veterans take their lives. This conversation, because this message is, I'm begging you, please don't do this, because this is the decision you can't come back from. And I've had friends have done that, and it breaks my heart, because that left children behind and grandkids, and I can't imagine how to explain that. And my children saved my life. They saved my life, because suicide can't be my legacy for my children. And they were the way I could just that helped. I got better now.
Yeah. And you write very eloquently about your children, and also your wife, Giselle, your parents, your brother, Greg, about the way that they literally pulled you out of bed and made you get help. And then, of course, this was after you were elected. Then you became a senator, and you were open about checking into Walter Reed, because that depression was still very much a part of you, a part of your life. And, campaigns obviously are vicious. You write about the impact of the one that you had. Dr. Oz, in his ads, talked about your mental health. Does that give you pause? I know we're not quite at your reelection time, but does it give you pause about launching another campaign and coming back to the Senate?
No. I mean, that I don't have any impact on that. I'm in a much different kind of a place now. I mean, I had to pioneer. No one's ever, campaigned for the Senate, the biggest race in the cycle, after a near fatal stroke, and having to develop the kind of technology like captioning. Captioning now has just become a part of my life. And that's a tool no different than like wearing glasses. And now, once you realize the danger of depression, I would never allow myself to ever get in that kind of a headspace to be worrying about those kinds of depression. That's kind of like the perverse logic. It's like, at that point, I just really wanted to erase myself after that campaign. Kind of after all that campaign and all of that, it's like I think the best option is to just erase myself.
Well, you didn't, and that's the whole reason why you were so candid about how it feels to be in the depths of the depression that you were in. Senator Fetterman, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing that. And for our viewers, if you or someone is suffering, please text or call 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.